kind of alliance. We're doing it for the alliance reasons as opposed to what Korea's role, proper role in the world is all about. It's going to be more politically demanding. You have to get approval in the assembly to be able to do it. It's not UN PKO oriented. And you have that very fresh memory of the hostages being taken and killed there, and I think very incorrectly, unfortunately, the U.S. took a bit of a public relations hit during that. It was very unfair. We worked very hard to give them a lot of good information, and it was actually a very good alliance experience, I think, in many ways, but that's not necessarily what the public remembers of that. So I hope it's not a big thing that she's got to kind of push or deliver on. It's good to ask. Maybe instead of 30, maybe they'll go to 60, or maybe they'll work with another country to do something a little bit more than maybe they were originally thinking. Maybe it's a way of negotiating up Korea's contribution in Afghanistan, but I just see it as a particularly difficult one to start off with. But that would really show, in my opinion, if they did that, boy, then it's clear to me. This is about U.S. alliance and U.S.-Korea relations, and it's about not worrying about the politics of being a global player. It's I'll take the hit and go for it. But I'd be surprised if.
Evans Revere.
Something that you had in your list of questions at the end of your presentation struck me that one of them I think probably deserves further amplification, and that is trying to identify for future contingency purposes where the threats are coming from, what the major concerns that Korea has as a nation in terms of security beyond the North. Because this is an area, I think, to borrow Ambassador Sun's earlier phrase, that there's not a lot of harmony coming out of Seoul. Like, as you see, fingers being pointed in different directions. So I think building on Ambassador Sun's point, all is not clear in terms of how decisions are being made and who's actually running things quite yet. But give it another 6 months and hopefully things will settle down a bit.
Dr. Patrick.
I don't know what the time is. I assume we're ending at 2.
No, by 2, yes.
I wanted to raise a broader question, if it's okay,
sure.
If we have the time. And that is, I've been waiting to hear what the new administration policy in Korea is going to be toward China. Economic, political, other dimensions. And it's interesting, we've been talking so much about the American alliance and so much U.S. Korea, which is not natural given this is KEI, but there is a China story, I think, and maybe I should ask Ambassador Sun, what's the foreign policy toward China going to be?
No policy. I don't see in the near future a clear-cut policy of the member government on China. It's rather complicated. But of course, the new government will try to maintain a very good neighborly and friendly and cooperative relationship with China. But again, the foundation of Korean government's policy on China will be found in the closer cooperation between ROK and the United States.
Evans.
I spent a lot of time not only talking to Koreans, but talking to neighbors of Koreans, and in several conversations with Chinese, both official and unofficial Chinese representatives, I have picked up some concerns, quiet concerns, but concerns from Beijing as it looks at the ROK. They are starting to pick up some signals, once again, maybe from the wrong side of the house, in the Blue House, I'm not sure, about how China is perceived in Korea. And there are interesting conversations going around in certain party and government circles in Beijing about their concern about where the new ROK government may be heading in terms of China policy. So something is out there because it's being picked up by Chinese, and it may reflect some of these sort of odd interventions like the one we heard in Seoul recently. but there may be something else there. But clearly, some button has been pushed in Beijing, and they're starting to watch the rhetoric a lot more carefully coming out of Seoul.
Yes, if I may, one more. I add one more thing to what you said. But in the past 10 years' time, there are some important people who insisted on the so-called equidistance diplomacy towards China and the United States. But nowadays, after the return to the conservatism, as far as I define it, means that in the base of the South Korean government, China will be the picture, will be restored, communist country. But this is a very important factor.
Would you like to add anything, Jim?
Well, only that it'll be interesting to see how much of a role that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has in developing that policy or not, and whether it's something that the Lee administration decides. I would hope that the Foreign Ministry has a stronger role going forward, but I'm not familiar with the China hands perceptions in MOFAT and what their traditional view is like. But it'll be interesting to see how that ends up flowing into the decision-making process.
The China hand is now the unification ministry.
Are there any final questions or points? Or
That's very important because the China hands within the foreign ministry, as far as I see, those people who have served in Beijing one time or twice, unfortunately, all of them, without exception, have been very much Beijingized. I don't know why all the Korean diplomats who have served in Beijing, have come back being Beijingized. So we cannot rely upon them very much.
But before we conclude and before I thank Jim for your excellent presentation and commentary today, we have a couple announcements and then I'll turn it over to Jack to conclude everything. One is our next academic paper will be presented on May 21st by Marcus Nolan of the Peterson Institute for International Economics, and he'll talk about South Korean institutional reform. So for those of you in Washington, I hope that you can come.